When I was in high school, there was this girl who I'll call Anna for privacy reasons. She was definitely on the shy side and didn't have too many friends. She was a bit of a nerd and got picked on sometimes by other students. She was nice enough, so I always tried to make an effort to smile at her in the hallway and talk to her in class from time to time. I think she appreciated this, and before long, we kind of became friends and would help each other out on assignments for the classes we had together. Eventually, Anna's birthday rolled around and she asked me if I would want to come over to her house for a sleepover to celebrate. I felt a little weird about it because we had never hung out outside of school before and weren't exactly close friends, so a sleepover seemed a little premature. But I hated the thought of her spending her birthday without any friends, so I ended up agreeing. The day of the sleepover, I went to the store to find Anna a present. We wore uniforms at school, so I didn't really know what her style was in regards to fashion. I walked through the jewelry aisle and noticed some blue dangly earrings that I thought were cute. I figured they would go well with Anna's blue eyes, so I decided to get them. After purchasing the earrings, I plugged in Anna's address into my GPS and headed over to her house. Everything started normal. Anna's parents were really nice and seemed very relieved that she had a friend to celebrate her birthday with. After dinner and some small talk with her parents, Anna and I decided to head down to the basement where we would be sleeping that night. I handed her the present I'd gotten her, and she excitedly opened it up. When she saw the earrings, she was absolutely thrilled and was way more excited than I thought she would be. It made me wonder if this was the first time anyone other than a family member had gotten her a gift. She was so excited that she reached over to hug me, startling me a little. When Anna leaned back, I looked at her ears and realized that they were not pierced. I felt bad that I had given her a gift she couldn't even use and told her that I still had the receipt somewhere and she could return the earrings and get something she could actually use. But she shook her head and told me that the earrings were perfect and she was going to keep them. I thought this was a little strange, but shrugged it off, figuring that maybe she was planning to go to the mall to get her ears pierced soon. We ended up watching a movie and then calling it a night at around midnight. I got into my sleeping bag and she got into hers, and I drifted off pretty quickly. Sometime later in the night, I was awoken by Anna gently shaking me. After a few moments of confusion, I sat up to see what Anna was trying to show me. I was shocked when I looked at her as she stared at me, a giant smile on her face. She had taken the earrings I had gotten her and pushed them into her own ears until it broke the skin and came out on the other side, essentially piercing her own ears. There was blood running down her face on either side and some on her sleeping bag. The metal ends of the earrings were pretty blunt, so to get them to pierce through her ears must have taken lots of time and pain. I had no idea why she had done this, but I was incredibly disturbed. I ended up faking being sick and driving myself home early. I still see Anna at school, and she is always wearing the earrings. During my sophomore year of high school, there was this girl in my algebra class who I'll call Morgan, who sat behind me. Morgan wasn't exactly someone you would think of as being popular. In fact, she was really anything but. She had pretty bad acne and talked with a little bit of a lisp, so she got made fun of a lot. Sometimes the guys in our class would imitate her lisp right in front of her, and the teachers would rarely do anything about it. I was absolutely terrible at algebra and would struggle to keep up in class. Lots of times the teacher would call on me and I wouldn't even have a decent guess of what the answer was. But Morgan would subtly lean over my shoulder and whisper the answer to me under her breath. I was so appreciative of this because it saved me from a lot of embarrassment. One day, Morgan and I swapped numbers and we began texting outside of school from time to time. Most of the time it would be about schoolwork, but occasionally we would talk about other things as well. I was really into following the fashion trends at the time, which Morgan noticed. Sometimes she would ask me about what I thought of the latest fashion trends or different outfits celebrities were wearing, and I would give my opinion. One Friday, Morgan came up to me after class and asked if I would want to spend the night. I didn't really want to go, but I felt like I couldn't say no. After all, she'd been so nice to me all semester by helping me out with math. I told myself it was only one night and it would be fine, so I agreed. She seemed very excited and gave me the address to her house. That night, I drove to her house and was surprised when my GPS led me to a huge mansion that looked like something you would see in the movies. I walked up to the door to knock, but Morgan must have seen me coming because she opened the door right away and led me inside. The house was just as breathtaking inside, complete with stunning art and expensive-looking furniture. Morgan led me upstairs to her bedroom, and I was shocked when she opened the door and I saw my own face. There was a selfie of Morgan and I that had been blown up and was hung right above her bed. I didn't even remember taking the photo. She must have snapped it really quick when I wasn't paying attention. But that wasn't even the most disturbing part. She led me into her closet, and inside was nearly every outfit that I had worn over the last few months, even the exact same shoes. She explained to me that she wanted to become just like me and had been taking notes of what I wore, how I talked, and even how I laughed. She talked to me about this as if it was a completely normal thing to do. She almost acted as if this was supposed to be a compliment to me. But it didn't stop there. She bent down and pulled out her sock, revealing something that made my heart drop to my stomach. It was a tattoo of an anchor, identical to the one I had recently gotten on my own ankle. The tattoo is for my older brother, who is actively serving in the Navy. It was something very meaningful to me, and I couldn't believe Morgan had gone out and got one that was identical just to be more like me. I felt completely violated and disturbed, and I ended up running out of the house to my car. I drove home and blocked Morgan's number on my phone. I still see her at school from time to time, but I do my best to avoid her at all costs. Back in high school, there was this girl I knew who I'll call Farah. Farah wasn't exactly well-liked. She was the kind of kid who would remind the teacher that there was supposed to be a test that day if they forgot about it. She was also the kid to turn you into administration if you ever got caught cheating. I wasn't what you would call friends with Farah, even if maybe she thought differently at the time. But we both played the flute in the school band, so we would end up having to spend a lot of time together at school at different sporting events. One day, Farah asked me and a few other girls from the band to come over to her house for a sleepover. Not one bit of me wanted to go, but one of the other girls she had invited convinced me to come because she had already agreed and didn't want to be the only one there. I told Farah I would come, and just as I expected, only me and my other friend showed up that night to the house. Farah didn't seem to know how to act when we got to her house. Her room was impossibly neat, and there were no games or anything to keep us entertained. It was clear that the boring, straight-laced individual she was at school was really how she was all the time. We turned on the TV and came across a popular sitcom on one of the channels. My friend and I suggested to Farah that we watch it, but she shook her head and said her parents didn't let her watch shows like that. We asked what she was allowed to watch, and she said she could only watch the Children's Network. We were in our mid-teens at this point, so this was clearly strange, but I said nothing. I was relieved when it was finally time to go to bed. I couldn't wait for this nightmare to be over. I crawled into my sleeping bag next to my friend, and Farah went to her own bed. I was exhausted and fell asleep pretty quickly. At some point during the night, I got a weird, uneasy feeling that made me wake up. I opened my eyes and was shocked to see Farah on her knees staring at my sleeping friend. Her back was towards me, and I watched as she stroked her hair and ran her fingers down her collarbone. It gave me a sick feeling inside. I asked her what she was doing, and she told me my friend was having a nightmare and she was trying to calm her down. I ended up waking up my friend and telling her what happened. We were both so creeped out, we ended up leaving early. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't woken up that night.